Hi everyone, another episode of Forward. This is Charlie and Chrissy from CST. So I'm excited about this one because I'm going to be asking Chrissy some questions all around mindset and just how to manage the stress of marketing operations. I think it's a really cool topic and something that Chrissy, ever since I've known us, you've always been really focused on this. And we've both had our journey around how to manage stress of MOPS, which I think every team probably thinks their stress is unique, but I think there are some unique stresses around marketing operations. So yeah, I think let's just kick it off and get straight into it, shall we?
Yeah.
So really from a stress management point of view, let's set the stage, talk about why you think marketing operations has a lot of stress these days, and then how they can address it.
Yeah. So, since I even got started in marketing ops, it was pretty clear that a lot of people actually shy away from this job. I think because they know about some of the stressors that just naturally come with it. We touch a lot of different areas that are important to marketing that are very technical and can have a lot of downstream effects and issues that are very public facing. So, the classic example, you accidentally push the wrong button or make a mistake in your list and you end up emailing, your whole database, which has massive implications, or you accidentally run a campaign that manipulates data from one small mistake for a ton of people in the database.
Yeah, or you have a CSV and somehow you sort it, or but it only sorts part of it, and then it's all of the data you upload is just matched to the wrong record.
Yeah, and then you add on things. Yeah. And now you add on things like virtual events and just your website, campaigns, and there's just so much that goes into it that definitely
if you want a reminder of everything that goes into it, by the way, go a few podcasts back around what type of marketing operations person are you, and there's a 3-minute intro of just all of the things you probably should be focusing on.
Yeah. So I'll be the first person to say I wouldn't say I'm the best at managing stress naturally. I tend to be a bit of a anxious person, but to be honest, who isn't? But I've always had people comment, wow, you're so calm in this role, you deal with everything so calm, how do you do it? And I think early on in my career, they probably didn't see me really stressed at night trying to prepare data at 3 a.m. or something, or wanting to go cry in a corner because things were pretty crazy. But I realized that stress or not managing it well just makes this job so much harder. It makes decisions seem like they're really hard when they're simple. It makes solving problems seem like they're impossible when it's not. And so I wanted to share just some of my tips. I've done this for over 10 years now. I've worked in marketing ops and in startups, and now, helping do that for multiple clients. Now I've worked with over
one at a time. It wasn't enough.
Yeah, one at a time was enough. I had to make it harder for myself and work in many instances. So but yeah, so the first thing, and I don't want everyone to think this is why is she trying to be like Oprah and talk about things that are are in marketing ops and tell me the health and mindset or I'm not goopy Gwyneth Paltrow or whatever, but I do think that it is important to have a healthy mindset and also just take care of ourselves. Self-care is super important. I honestly think that with any big job in our life, being a parent or a partner, you really need to take care of yourself first in order to take care of other people or that other thing that takes a lot of your attention. And so, from a mindset perspective, that really means managing your stress or keeping calm. And there's a lot of things that people say that they use to help with that. So if mindfulness is your thing and you like meditating, but really starting out your day, I think, with something that really grounds you, I think can really help with that. I love waking up early and working out and getting all the kind of my anxious energy out in a physical way, and any movement I think can work for people, but other people,
especially getting it done before the baby's awake.
Yep. Yeah. So that does mean waking up before like 5:30 in the morning, which some of you might just like think that's impossible. And yes, that you need to find out what works for you, but maybe starting your day, even if it's with going outside with your cup of coffee and walking the dog, like that's some movement that can really ground you.
Yeah. And I don't think you're saying you have to get up early. Like the advice is, you know, figuring out, like actually thinking about it, right? Like,
yeah.
Everyone has their own style or their own, their own wants and needs and their own schedule. So
yeah, totally.
The advice where everyone always says, you have to be up by 4 and you have to have done like 3,000 burpees before.
No,
5.
I'm not Jocko Willink. I'm not going to tell you like you need to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. If anything, sleep is really important. That's the next thing that I want to talk about, and I think sleep is super important. I used to just like run myself ragged. Like I would wake up early, work out, do a full day's work, go home, work until like midnight, and then do it all over again. Sometimes like even later than that. And then by the time it got to Friday, I was so exhausted, like brain dead. I would be like falling asleep on the train and I couldn't even basically function. So I lost like a day of work just from doing that. And I can honestly say that since I got a healthier attitude where when I'm on, yes, I do maybe work long hours sometimes when I have to, or I do, work a lot of my day, but on the weekends, I don't try and catch up on work. Like that doesn't help, or I don't work in the evenings because honestly, I see the most mistakes happen beyond like 6 o'clock.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's so true.
With a client, she made a huge mistake and accidentally manipulated data. I looked to see when it was done. It was on a Saturday.
That's
it's
actually a really, really good point. Cause yeah, like if you are going to work late, save the easy stuff for that time, right?
Exactly.
Like, but try not to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. But definitely don't do the complicated stuff, data related stuff. Like leave that to where your brain is fresh and you have the energy.
Yeah, and then so I think
tidying it up is just going to add even more stress.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. You can get into this big cycle of just making bad decisions, wrong decisions, feeling like your work is hard, getting you put down, feeling down, crying, whatever your outlet is for that, being angry, and then also you're not a very nice person to work with. I think a lot of the times you see those like really overtired, jaded people, and the way you treat other people in other departments can be really short, and you just don't win any champions that way. And then we wonder why marketing ops doesn't get the support that they need from the other departments or elevated. So that I could go on a rant on that, but I think it's important to also just stay positive, like it can be hard when you're stressful, but really focusing on what are the good things I'm doing right now. Let's continue to do those and know that this isn't life or death. Yes, your CMO might make you think in like their passive aggressive, like email to you late at night that you need to, that it's really important, but everyone's MO is important. Like everyone thinks that whatever they're working on is the most important. And so, but you need to still focus on yourself and what's going to make you successful.
Yeah. Well, do you know for me, the best way to always feel positive is to get a good night's sleep. I feel like I can deal with things so much better once I've had a good night's sleep. Mm-hmm. And just recently I was probably working a little bit too much in the evenings and that screen time. Then going to bed, and I would be dreaming about marketing ops stuff, thinking about it, like getting bad sleep, wake up the next day, do it all again. It doesn't help obviously in this time right now where you can't, you're with the pandemic and everything, not being able to have like as much variety as to your life as maybe before. So you do end up like your brain is just kind of all on work. But yeah, like once I ended up deciding, okay, I've got to have everything off by a certain time, getting that better sleep, you actually get better and more work done during the normal working hours, so you don't even need to work at night anymore.
Yeah, totally.
What's the? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So what's the second one? Do you want to move on to the second one?
Yeah. So besides your mindset and health, I think the second thing that can really help is to prioritize. We always talk about this with marketing house: prioritize. And I think the key thing here is just to remember to prioritize your work based on the business goals and your marketing team's goals. Because that will make sure that you're only working on the most important things. And we have other frameworks that you can find, or past podcasts about like the Agile methodology and prioritization frameworks and how they can really help you. And think of your whole team as kind of like an engineering team, and how you can develop a roadmap that will keep you prioritized and make sure you're not working on just like everyone's super important thing that they happen to email you that day.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking more about we've been developing a prioritization framework that borrows a lot of aspects from the Rice methodology and the Eisenhower matrix, and then we're going to be talking about that at our Lean Data workshop on the 21st of October, and probably putting stuff out there on LinkedIn and in our newsletter on that. But yeah, so regardless of the prioritization framework, right, you should have one. Use some kind of way to prioritize your projects.
Yeah, and if you are just coming up in the role and your job, use other people to help you prioritize. Ask your boss, like, out of all these things on my plate, what are the things you think I should focus on? I would do that in my one-on-ones. And when I didn't do that, especially early on in my career, sometimes my bosses would be like, why are you focusing on that? Like, no, that's not important right now. And I think it takes the time to grow into your role to like realize what is and what isn't. But so if you are unsure, ask someone, and they can really help you.
Yeah. And I think the specific thing here for MOPS people is, everyone knows there's about 1,000 can of worms lurking in their systems, right? Or rabbit holes, whatever you want to call it. So someone sends you a message and says, I found this rabbit hole. Should we go explore it?
I think most times if someone sent me that, I'd be like, no.
You should probably run it against your prioritization framework, and if it doesn't hit the top, save it for a rainy day. Part of our prioritization framework that we're going to be talking about does have this kind of operational stability element into it. Yeah. So some of those rabbit holes need to be sorted, or some of those can of worms need to be sorted. And so they would be prioritized. So I'm not saying, if there's an issue, don't fix it. But what I'm saying is there's a million issues out there. You don't have to fix them all today, probably. And you should also be looking forward about what is kind of the bigger strategic initiative that I'm working on as part of your roadmap. Yeah,
I think, and just one last note on this before we go into the next one, but I'll give an example. I was talking to a client yesterday, and they were focused on, it's like opting in partners. And I said, okay, well, or getting partners to opt out of communications. I was like, okay, well, how are they opting in? And
sounds obvious.
And they're like, actually, we don't know. Our channel operations person left. Our just all of the channel team left. All we know is we have a partner portal, and that's it. No one has even investigated how it works. And I said, well, probably seems like that's your higher priority, is to figure that out. Because why would you put something in place for a process that feeds into that no one knows anything about, and it's not even documented? And he kind of sat there and like he kind of knew that. He's like, oh yeah, totally. But I think because I have these people saying we need to get this sorted, I felt like I needed to. And so also remember, you have the position to be like, I think this is a higher priority in order for me to make the best decisions to create this project.
Yeah, and you have to have your priorities in check, right? Yeah. So a lot of people, they don't have their priorities in check. They don't have a roadmap, so everyone else creates it for them, right? So it's like, we need you to do this. So you're like, okay, I'll do that. And what I've found, across a lot of our clients, one way to tackle this is obviously to have the roadmap, like we said, but also have a ticketing system, use your project management tool, Asana, Right, Jira, whatever. And if people have a feature kind of request that they want to put on your roadmap, they have to submit it with all of the information, and then you evaluate it in there. Like, it's not like a Slack message, it's not an email, they're not walking over to your desk or calling you. They have to put it in there, and you regularly go check it, right? Like, you're not checking it every single minute of every single day like you are Slack. Obviously, if there's an emergency, they can Slack you, but for everything else goes into this ticketing system, and you evaluate it over time. And one thing personally that I've done, because I can, like everyone, you kind of like, even yourself, like even if people aren't sending you their own priorities, sometimes you think of something and you go, oh, I want to investigate this, and you kind of get into it, like it's kind of exciting, or you're interested in it. So we use Rike as our project management tool. I have a task in there called my rainy day list. Every time I think, oh, this would be cool, I should start looking at that. And I have like that. I have so many things in my head that just pop up like that. If it's not a big priority, I add it to my rainy day list, so I don't forget it. And then if I ever come back to my rainy day list, it's good. But at least you feel like you've kind of done something by adding it to your list.
Yeah.
So that's just another kind of tactical thing that you can do personally, I think, that I found that I quite like.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so
Third one.
to wrap it up, the last one, and it seems like a very obvious one, but I think it's honestly one of the biggest life-changing thing I did in my role in marketing, also really like managing my time and calendar. And this is one of the things, like you said, you can have other people kind of control your destiny. And in marketing ops, there's so many people trying to get your time and put meetings on your calendar. And they say now even more during COVID with working from home, you have more meetings on your calendar. And so I think one of the things that can be really useful is looking at your calendar, figuring out how much of your time is just spent sitting in meetings. And then what of those meetings, like how many of those meetings can be taken off or even reduced, even down to like a simple email thread or some other process. And I think that can be great for just, saving time. I think also protecting your calendar and time on your calendar is really key. I started to do this, and this is where I made a huge change where I knew I was really productive in the morning. Like I do this today too, a little bit, where it's harder with clients now because I've scheduled, but I'll protect like the times between 9 and 11 because I feel like I get my best work done when I'm really fresh after I've had a coffee, and I can really work on things that are operational and take a lot of my time and energy. And then I save my calls for the afternoons, where that's when it's a bit easier to kind of talk things through and you're not like in the system. There's going to be cases where this is tough because you have to have calls with maybe your EMEA team and you need to be, on the call in the morning. So figuring out a time, when I had a global operations role, my time during that was actually 10 to 12. And then I knew, okay, I have my lunch there. So if I needed extra time even to go over my lunch, I could.
Yep.
And so figuring out what those times are and really protect your calendar, and also just kind of do another bump and protect your calendar for something that really makes you happy and grounds you. So right now I always block between 12 and 12:30 to make our daughter Ava lunch. And that's my time to connect with her in my busy day. And I make her lunch, which she loves, and I make myself lunch. And so, yes, I'll have times where it goes over into that or I need to move it around, but majority of the time that makes me happy and connected to my life outside of work. And I really save that time.
Yeah.
So I think this is, so I think next steps for everyone is also an easy way to just start with this is just looking at your calendar, because the alternative is if you're in meetings all day, no doubt you're working at night, because how else are you going to get your work done? And that feeds back into the first one of like not getting enough sleep and being tired and so forth. So
yeah, and I've got a couple of tactical things I discussed with a client the other day, actually, just on this topic. So if you're a team of one, it's a little bit more difficult. But for this first one, if you're a team of two or more in MOPS, and I feel like a lot of times you'll find that both of the people are on all the MOPS calls.
Yeah.
You know, like there might be a director and a manager, and they're on everything, because it's like, well, the director's leading the strategy, the manager's doing some of the works. We both need to be on there. But with this client, we went through all of the meetings they were both on, and we helped them. We figured out ways to divide and conquer, right? Like the manager was going to help work with all of the different marketing teams on the campaign execution stuff that the director didn't need to be in, and the manager was going to get out of a few meetings where the director just was going to lead a strategic conversation. So they can always connect afterwards or on a weekly call, but to try and divide and conquer, you don't both need to be on every meeting. A bit more difficult if you're only one person though.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a good tip, especially for leaders, where being able to let go of that as well, I think is really key. So, and
the other one is, a lot of times a call is just an update on something, right?
Yeah.
You just want to make sure that everyone knows something that happened, or someone's got a question for you. So I love using Loom for that. Yeah, so we do it with our team sometimes. If the team member has a question and they're like, oh, can you just jump on a call and just like explain this thing to me? It's like, you know, yes, you could jump on the call and you'll be on the Zoom, you'll be waiting for each other, you might have the technical issues, and then there you end up talking about other stuff, and it's end up being like a lot longer than you need to be.
Yeah.
But Loom is a tool that is just a browser extension on Google Chrome, and you can just record a really quick video. It creates a link, you can just send it to them. So if you're able to just like create that really short video for your team or anyone else, then you can send it to them. They can then watch it in 2x speed, right? So even if it's like a 10-minute video, they can watch it in 5 minutes. They just up the speed.
Yeah.
And you're all more efficient, right? So just another little thing there.
Great idea.
You can't do a live meeting in 2x speed unless you talk really, really bloody fast.
That'd be amazing. Maybe in the future, Apple will have something where it automatically, or Zoom will automatically take your voice and make it 2x speed. But yeah, so those are my tips. I think mindset, health, everything, the way we approach our jobs just makes our jobs just so much more easier, even though it can be super stressful and complicated. So establishing that really calm foundation will just make your life easier and better, and make you better at your job. So hopefully that was super helpful for you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of Forward Thinking.
This is Charlie. So if you liked what you heard, hit like on the platform where you watch this. Also, leave a review. Honestly, we'd really, really appreciate it. You can also subscribe where you listen to your podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or even YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, which is packed full of exclusive content, updates for events or courses that we might be doing, all designed to elevate your marketing operations and B2B strategy. See you next time on Forward, and forward it on.